Hey,
Hey Frank,
how you doing?
I'm perfect. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good.
Yeah,
Uh, Boy, do we have a lot to talk about today.
yeah, a big day,
Holy shit.
big day,
Big day. Big day.
big 24 hour.
Uh, I'm sorry, go on.
It's a big 24-hour period.
Aren't you getting tired of it?
What are we gonna do when things go back to normal or somewhat normal?
Isn't it going to be nice whenever we can just say, "How was your day?" and you go, "Oh, it was all right,"
Yeah,
and how was yours? And I'm like, "Yeah, it was okay."
yeah. All you talk about work and what you're gonna get for dinner, and yeah,
Well,
those kind of things.
we start talking about family and you know things like that, what our kids are up to, and
Yeah,
oh yeah, I can't wait for those days.
yep,
You saw Lou's going to be on a little late.
yeah. He had a long day of installing cabinets. He said.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, One thing I will tell you about Lou, if he's doing that stuff, he's doing it right. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, I believe that. I
Yeah,
believe that.
yeah. He doesn't cut corners.
No.
Uh, I suppose we'll go back to it whenever Lou gets on. But I'm really interested in your opinion. What did you think of last night?
Yeah. I mean, overall, I thought it was what we thought it was going to be and we hoped it would be, that there would be a little bit more traditional debate situation. Um, but I was disappointed in that I felt like a lot of the time the candidates weren't answering the questions. Um, I was very, very disappointed in the moderator. I think I read something from NBC online, and they gave her an F, and I have to agree with that. I think that she crafted some okay questions. Some folks said she crafted some good questions, maybe so, but there was very little follow up. I mean, zero follow up. Like if somebody didn't answer a question, she didn't say, "You didn't answer my question. You didn't address the question." If it was important enough to ask the question, then I would suppose you would want an answer. And she never did follow up with anything really. Pence was dodging questions left and right. Um, that was, I guess to be expected. That's his MO. He did it in a way that he felt like he was going to get away with it. I don't think he got away with it. Um, I think he tried to drag Kamala into his territory and was somewhat successful in that in a debate style. He got her to kind of respond to some of his stuff, and then he kind of, I think he defined a narrative for the conservative folks and for some of those like fear mongering things about the packing the Supreme Court, and talking about, they're going to pack the Supreme Court, they're going to add, justices and blah blah blah. And I felt like there should have been an answer to that. I mean, um, I felt like there should have been something about the thought that we're going to follow the Constitution. There really is no constitutional requirement that the court be nine justices. We prefer tradition. We follow tradition, unlike this uh, administration. However, if the American public and our society needs more justices, we'll address that. Something like that. I think would have been good. Um, or just to say, I don't even know where this is coming from. Yeah, there's talk on Twitter about this kind of stuff, but the Biden Harris ticket has not even adopted any kind of policy about adding Supreme Court justices. I think just succinct like that, because it would have been an honest answer too, could have been a response, and it would have shut that down, and then she could have moved on to something else. But I had I guess that's kind of like big picture stuff. And then I had some analysis I wanted to give tonight from I guess my perspective, which may be unique in a sense that, I said it on the Discord, and I'll go over it with you guys tonight. But what do you think in response to that so far?
I completely agree with you with and I think a lot of it is systemic, and I'll give me a moment to explain. we have a tendency to find people who are very good at asking questions, okay, to be moderators. And honestly, I thought Chris Wallace in the presidential debate, I thought he was a good choice. Okay, I did. I mean, Fox Entertainment aside, I thought Chris Wallace was a good choice. Um, I thought the moderator we had last night was a good choice because they're very acute and very keen on asking pertinent questions. My problem with both of them, and I don't even know who the moderator for the next debate, whenever the fuck that happens, and we'll get into that later, uh, is going to be, is that number one, they have a very difficult time asking follow-up questions. Okay, which I don't know if it's a prep thing where you're just not prepping for whatever, or a situation where they recognize that they are pressed for time and they have to continue because they have to get everything in, so they really can't uh, parlay or jive with the person who's dodging the question, because they recognize that they have a finite amount of time and they have to get so much in. Which leads me to another question that I'll ask you after I give you my answer. I was very pleased with the initial questions.
Yeah.
I was very displeased with how the follow-ups or how everything was handled after the question was presented. Okay. And in our Discord group, you saw it, Frank. I said, look, the problem that we have is we have people who ask the right questions, but it's almost an academic thing, right? Where they ask the question, and then whatever answer you give is either going to be right or wrong, but they're not going to press you into defending your stance or your answer, even if it's a non-answer.
Right.
Okay, because we have to move on, because our time, the finite time that we have, is far more important than our answer, than the answers given, or the discord between the question and the answer. To me, I would much rather have spent 90 minutes with this moderator asking maybe 3 questions,
Mm-hmm.
because she's going to hold them, both of them, to, you're going to answer my question.
Yeah.
Then, okay, that's the non-answer you're giving. Okay, let's move on, and kind of giving them a free pass.
Yeah.
I'm not fond of that. I want to see an answer.
Yeah, I agree. And I do agree with your take on the fact that we have a finite amount of time and that they're limited and they're hamstrung by that to some extent. And it seems like there's a running of the clock from the candidates to some extent. They realize that, and
Pence was almost obnoxious about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was.
Go on. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine. You're absolutely fine. I guess the other thing that spilled into my personal take on this, I think both candidates did fine. I think both candidates, let's just talk debate first. Both candidates did fine. And there's an optics issue. And I think that you and I both agree that, just from what we talked about on Discord today, and maybe even a little bit last night, quite frankly, that the optics were a disaster for Pence.
Poor.
They're a disaster.
Very, very poor.
Yeah. But on debate, on the issues and on how you debate, I would say they were close to even on that. I made it last night, given a slight edge to Pence. I may be changing my opinion on that a little bit.
Yeah, I would have too.
But here's why. Let me explain something. It's a personal thing for me. I mentioned it on the Discord today that I've judged moot court competitions. I've trained folks to argue in front of appellate courts. I've personally argued in front of state Supreme Court. Um, I expect lawyers to be held to a certain standard. Remember last week when we talked about how Biden looked into the camera? He never looked at Trump. I mean, he didn't break his focus. He spoke to the audience. He spoke to the jury, basically. He was very genuine. I saw Pence try to do that, but it didn't come across as genuine. It came across as, let me
Flat.
see. Yeah, let me see if I can do this. He was like robotic about it.
Yeah, he was flat.
Yeah. But he's not a lawyer, and you don't have to be a lawyer to do it well, but it helps. But Kamala is, and I was just slightly disappointed in that. And maybe I'm making it too hard on her because of that, and I'll admit to that. But I look at like RBG. Go back and look at you can pull up some of her arguments on YouTube on Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg when she was an attorney. Okay, watch her argument style when she was in front of the Supreme Court. Watch how she carried herself. Watch when she was under attack, and she was young, and you know she was in front of those justices who were all men, and she had their rapt attention. When she was under the gun by their questions, she never got flustered. She answered the questions they asked. Even if she wanted to pivot, she answered their question they asked, acknowledged it, and then pivoted. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Oh, come on. Come back, Frank, because you're on a roll, buddy. Okay.
Am I here?
Yep, you're good.
To me, I wanted to see that style. I wanted to see that style of like, you don't have to be a robot, Senator Harris. You don't, but I want you to be very lawyerly. I want you to be. You could be passionate like I'm being right now, but you got to be professional and in the sense of like, I'm not gonna be thrown off by this. I know he's coming at me with this bull crap. I know it in the back of my mind, and it's okay to get him like she got him. I loved it. I was cheering that on when she got him like she got him. But some of the things, the mannerisms, like I would say to any of my young attorneys who are arguing in front of appellate courts, not only do you not look at your opponent when you're making those arguments, but you have to keep your facial expressions kind of to a minimum. I mean, it's like when I'm in front of a jury even. Some of my mentors told me, don't wear cologne, because what if you have jurors on there who have a bad situation with somebody at home, or that they've had a relationship with somebody and that cologne reminds them that they'll be mad at you just subconsciously. And the same thing could be said for facial expression. Some people may love it and some people may hate it. And if you just kind of keep that kind of neutral tone, so to speak, in a debate of this size and this magnitude, it's a little bit preferable to me personally. Now, some people can get into it as a gender issue, and I get that. I don't dismiss that it seems like it's harder on women, because if she wasn't smiling, then they'd say she's cold. If she is smiling, they're saying you're smirking. And I get that. But from a lawyer standpoint, making that closing argument, I want to see the passion, and I love it. But I want to see a little bit more of the professionalism to go along with it. But the more I distance myself from that and say, this is my own internal training, and I'm presupposing it on her, which maybe isn't very fair, because this is such a huge kind of first-time big thing that's going on. I don't think it's as big a deal as I made it out to be, and it's very personal to me.
Well, Frank, the thing is, we have a tendency to be hardest on the people who we identify the most with. Okay, I am hardest on other martial artists and even people that I don't even know, right, than I am on like my son in order to do the right thing.
Right.
Okay. Because we look at people like us as we have an obligation to live up to a certain standard, and that standard may be something that we set without anybody else's knowledge.
Right.
Okay. And that just goes to the passion of our passion of what we do. Okay. And I've been incredibly disappointed by other people in my position who have my status, my rank, whatever, or even higher than mine, who have failed miserably, not in my eyes, not because of human fault or human error or, just like falling off the wagon, so to speak, but because I expect more from them because I expect more from myself, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can understand your criticism of Harris, and it believe me when I tell you, it's a warranted criticism because of the standards that we set. Okay, and we expect other people to live up to those standards, and maybe they can, maybe they can't, maybe they're dealing with things that we don't see or whatever the case may be, and those are all valid points.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, we always tend to look at other people who are in our same position to do things that are at least what we feel we would strive to achieve, right?
Right.
One thing I said in our group, and you and I talked about it last night, and last night before the debate, you and I were on this very platform, and it's recorded, and everybody in the world can see it if they want to, and we both said Pence is a very good debater.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's kind of his thing. He was good at that. He was a talk show host in between. He knows how to do that, and he knows how to pivot. And I thought he did a very good job. I'll be honest with you. I thought he did a very good job. But the one thing he did that I don't think people are quite getting or quite understanding, he acknowledged, just simply by how he acted and how he reacted, he acknowledged the legitimacy that Kamala Harris is a threat. The Harris-Biden campaign is a threat to what he has or what he's standing on. And whenever he made that acknowledgement, and he didn't do it formally, but you could tell by his actions that he's acknowledging it.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever he did that,
yeah,
he made Kamala Harris a 100% complete, legit player in this game.
Oh, yeah.
And at the same time, he kind of downgraded Trump's status in this game.
Yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right. That he took away a big arrow in the quiver of the Trump playbook of trying to delegitimize Kamala Harris, because maybe overtly and maybe just by his actions and his words, reading into it, as you said, he did legitimize her presence and her belonging on that stage, and that was good. I mean, look, it should go without saying, but I'm glad that as a competitor he did that. But you're right; it took a leg out from the platform that Trump would like to have, to try to say, look, if they go away, if you vote for that ticket, you might be putting somebody who's not qualified into that position because your own running mate said she's qualified for that position.
Yeah, even saying it without actually saying it, just his action said it.
Yeah, no doubt. And look, the other thing that I think we both agree on, let's not get it twisted. I think Patsy and I both will sit here and say very, very openly and very honestly and very convincingly that that Pence's actions throughout last night were quite shitty at times. When he continued to talk past his time limit, when he talked over Kamala Harris on several occasions, that's a style thing and it's an optics thing that I think was awful, and his behavior in that regard was awful. So I know you, Patsy, and I know that we both agree that was terrible, and it doesn't score any points.
Absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
I think he failed the look. At the end of the day, I honestly believe, and honest to God, Frank, I don't mean this as a criticism by any means. Okay, I just, it is what it is. Okay, like Trump liked to say, it is what it is. Optics to me are everything. I always tell, I train cops in 27 different states.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I always told them, whether you're right or wrong, whether God himself decided you were right or wrong, perception is reality.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're an attorney, for fuck's sake. You know that better than anybody. You know that better than I do. Right? At the end of the day, perception is reality. And what you saw, the optics of this was a very pale, sick male,
Mm-hmm.
the only male out of three people,
Yeah.
okay, talking over the two other women, and one of those women happens to be a woman of color,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Whenever it was three males on the stage, that disrespect, that talking over, that being a bully, for the
Yeah.
lack of a better term, went over like a fart in church. And that was three grown ass adult human males, all white.
Yeah.
Now you have one male with two other women, one
Yeah.
of them a woman of color. Okay, that being his counterpart. So, I understand that. But the fact that you employed those same tactics that went over like the fart in church whenever everybody was the same, how did you expect that to go over?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know other than literally the Stepford wives and the people who are very conditioned to be just totally preconditioned to be in the MAGA camp that could anyway excuse that behavior. It was truly offensive. It was I gotta agree with you that you're not going to win anybody over with that kind of behavior that was
No.
offense. So I don't know why he would have done that. I really don't. Um, it doesn't make sense to me, but it was at very least a faux pas, at very honestly a sign of who he is. He has a lack of respect for women. He
Well,
has
that's
a
obvious.
yeah, yeah, and it's just it was a bad look.
Frank, the one demographic that's running away from them like he's the plague, right? Like you know, I think my wife referred to him as they're running away from him like he's Jack the Ripper,
Yeah,
right? Is suburban white women.
yeah,
They're running away from. They can't run fast enough away from him.
yeah,
And then you do this in a debate with against another woman and a female moderator.
yeah. I mean, it's crazy, and just to add a little bit of levity, but some truth to it too. I mean, you talk about him being a pale, sick man, and the fly decides to land on him. I mean, like it's nature, right? It's like nobody controls that. Nobody, it's so you're in this building in Utah, and I mean, I didn't even know there was flies in around in the fall in Utah. Quite frankly, I mean, the weather out there is like it's cooling down, and it's like, I mean, are they really out and active at this point? But anyway, it certainly found him, and
Mhm.
and it landed on his head. And yeah, it's been a funny meme. It's been a great thing. We had fun with it last night, but it's almost like whether you want to call it karma, irony, divine intervention, nature, whatever. But it's like it was a farce of him, and it was an opportunity to kind of make fun of the fact that what was coming out of his mouth a lot of times was shit, was bullshit.
It was
What?
bullshit. Yeah,
Yeah. What are flies attracted to? Shit.
shit. Look, we're talking about our takes on last night. Uh,
Okay.
what and I'm kind of putting you on the spot because Frank and I were able to talk for about 15 or 20 minutes before you got here. So I'm really asking you to put a whole lot into a short amount of time. But
Well, I fell asleep halfway through, if that tells you anything.
what? No, that doesn't help. What was your impressions of last night? What was the one thing you got out of this? Uh, that really, is like, what do you think this did? What was your feelings of this?
I think Kamala did what she needed to do. Maybe she could have gone a little more deep on COVID and the ineffectiveness, even though Pence was lying his ass off. There was, you know what? I think she needed to do. She did what she needed to do. I mean, that was her first national debate. I'm sure she was a little nervous being on
Oh,
that stage.
you looked like it at the beginning.
Yeah, a little bit at the beginning. I think she held her ground. I think in the long run, her and Joe are gonna have to give an answer on maybe the Supreme Court one way or the other. But I mean, truthfully, lie your ass off. Republicans do it all the time.
The
And as far as Pence not answering the same question, he evaded on the taxes. Well, he pays millions in taxes. Well, it's not the question, and everybody knows that's not the question.
Right.
How much did you pay in federal? I pay thousands in taxes too that aren't federal income tax. I know you do too, and so does Frank. City tax, real estate, sales tax. Yeah, that's we know that.
Right.
He's going to have to also be firm on the question. I think he's making a lot of people nervous, Pence and Trump both, on transition of power. I think that's an issue.
Go ahead.
I think that's a big issue. And I just was walking by and Steve Schmidt was on with Nicole, and he said, Lee of Utah he thought it was a really bad statement today too. He says, Lee says something about that transition of power. He says, he's thinking, well, what are you trying to do? Take over and to be an autocracy? You're going to help Trump out? He said, this is deeply disturbing. This is a democracy. Whether you agree with a Republican or Democrat, if you voted out, you're voted out. It's as simple as that. We've done it for how many years?
Almost 300.
He said, you've had how many years of peaceful transitions, no matter what, and this is, what the issue is. So,
guys,
that was my take in the short time before I went out.
We've seen now two debates back to back, and they've had their highs and they've had their lows, and you can see that regardless of what side of the fence you're on, right? Mm-hmm. But this whole idea of a transfer of power, both Trump and Pence. Let's face it. Let's be completely 100% honest. I mean, we have our biases, but let's be honest. You can't throw somebody a bigger, underhanded softball than this, right? And both of them failed that question epically. Not even it was an epic failure on both of their parts to sit there and say, I mean, you could just sit there and say, you know what, we will agree with the will of the people. Yeah. Right? Which is the most open-ended answer you could possibly give.
Yeah. Yeah.
Both of them failed at this.
Yes, they did.
Is that a sign of things to come, or is that somebody, in Pence's case, more so than Trump's, of somebody who just, he didn't know how to answer that?
Yeah, I mean, it is very disturbing.
Frank, do you think that there's a lot of truth into this whole thing, or do you think that they're just trying to play to a base that they're hoping they can get a jump start?
Maybe the latter. I think if there's a close race, they want to have their base fired up. If they get blown out, I don't think you're going to see much about it. But I also think that there should have been something. Remember what he tried to say to defer this was the Democrats. You and the Democrats didn't really let any transfer of power happen when Trump got elected, when this administration got elected, because you were always attacking him. And I think that I would have liked to have heard something to the effect that, well, if the Trump administration had honored the emoluments clause, not violated that from day one, if they had not, broken things like the Hatch Act, et cetera, we wouldn't have had to have continuously conduct our duties of oversight as a congressional body, which is our constitutional responsibility, by the way. And you wouldn't have, I guess, felt so under attack if you would have done things above board. But unfortunately, you put us in a position where we had to always check you. And none of us could get on with the other business of Congress because of that. That would have been, to me, one of the best, kind of comebacks on that. But, again, that's one of those things that I'm sitting in a chair at home thinking that it's a lot more different when you're sitting in that debate stage.
On a scale of 1 to 10, and we'll do both of them, but we'll say with Pence first. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the low end, 10 being a grand slam home run. How do you think Pence did? Lou, I'll start with you.
You know what? I'm going to say in the scheme of things, he was the sycophant protecting Trump for the base. You know what? I'll give him a 5.
Frank,
Excuse me. I don't think he did anything.
I would say, if you're giving your scale and we're talking baseball, I think he came up with a double. He gave his team a chance maybe to score a run there. He's in scoring position. But I don't see anybody bringing him home because it doesn't look like there's going to be another debate. And
yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. So I think he was calm enough. The lies that he told were the lies that the MAGA folks like to hear. They're not really going to check him on it. Nobody's checking him on it too much. The fact that he kind of, tried to control the narrative, the folks in that base that are Trumpers and even the ones who are kind of, concerned about the change in the economy tax-wise when a Democrat administration comes into power, he gave them a chance to seize on some of that. But, for the other issues that we talked about, he didn't really eat into any of the support for Kamala Harris. I don't think he ate it into the support of Biden. He didn't really quell any fears as far as I'm concerned about coronavirus or healthcare. Healthcare seems to be something that he left a big gaping hole on in terms of not answering what's going to happen with the Affordable Care Act and pre-existing conditions. So, I guess just by his calmer demeanor and the fact that he left the table set for some more arguments to be made, he's standing on second base, but I don't see him getting home.
So, do you agree with Lou? Was it a 5?
Yeah, 5 or 6. Yeah,
5 or 6.
Yeah,
we can say 6 because Lou said 5.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to ask you, Lou. I'm going to ask you the same question. Only this time, I'm going to say Kamala Harris. How do you think she did last night?
You know what? 6 or 7. I give her slightly higher.
Slightly better.
Yeah. She did what she had to do. It was funny to a couple of the guys installing my cabinets today. He's not a Trumper. He looks at everything, and he said, "You know what?" his comment was, "Black lady did pretty well, I thought."
The black lady. Oh my God, that says so much.
Well, we're talking an old white guy compared to me. How's that?
Yeah, that's old.
So actually, when you think about that, to me,
that's given a lot.
He thought she did all right. Yeah.
Frank, same question. What do you think? Give Kamala a score.
Yeah, I think. Look, she had some people on base from the last debate because we were, after that last debate, there was probably some runs scored and still some people on base. I think she drove them in, and when I say that, I think it's because you think about how she was a person who came off as a partner to her running mate. She was talking about Joe and how Joe thinks this and Joe thinks that, and here's what Joe's going to do about this, and here's his experience, and here's why I joined this ticket, and what we can do together as a team. Whereas Pence was kind of like he was almost an independent agent. He almost separated himself from Trump in a sense. So I say maybe like a 7, maybe stretched it into a 777 or an 8. She's standing there at third base. And here's the neat thing about what we're going to talk about at some point. Is there another debate or is there not another debate? But if there's not another debate, then Biden gets to stand up there by himself and talk for 90 minutes. And surely he's going to bring Kamala home from third base. So I think, when you look at the demeanor, the message, the fact that she was able to speak about systemic racism, I think she put to bed for most people the fact that she is not some liberal left-wing, friend of criminals. She was a prosecutor, a career prosecutor, who prosecuted crimes and understands the way the system works. And that was probably one of those big things to me that if you're paying attention, that pretty much puts to bed some of that garbage that was being spewed about.
Well, let me back up a second. It felt to me like Pence was an employee
Yeah.
Okay. Uh,
Loyal soldier.
yeah. He felt like he was defending the company.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where he was on the payroll, and he's pretty much doing what like Lou and I do, right? It's just like, okay, I'll defend the company because that's my that's what's basically paying my bills, right? And I say that and how and my basis for my answer is how they answered the question is how did you feel whenever you were when you got the call to be the vice president? Remember, it was real early in the debate.
Yeah.
And Kamala Harris really made it very personal, right? She told you pretty much how she felt and how it affected her, and what it meant to her. Where Pence made it seem like a business transaction, and I found that difference, that stark difference, incredibly intriguing. And it says a lot about what each administration is going to be. You saw somebody who took it to heart, who was legitimately happy, ecstatic, flattered, whatever you want to call it, to get that phone call to say, "Hey, I want you to run with me," especially considering that debate they had was probably the first debate whenever she really slammed him hard about the busing, right? Whenever, and yet he picked her. Right. Out of everybody he could have, anybody literally on the planet he could have picked, he picked her. Where Pence made it seem like it was, well, yeah, you fit the mold, and we have an opening, and we'd like to offer you the job.
Yeah.
Or do you think I'm Frank? What do you think? Does that sound right?
No, I do. I definitely think it sounds right. And it was one of those moments that was either unspoken or spoken that Pence did legitimize Kamala Harris when she talked about that moment, and he nodded in her direction, and he spoke about it a little bit. How he said, when it was his turn to be on that stage 4 years ago, but it did feel different this time for him. I mean, I think that it's more of just kind of like, yeah, business as usual. This is my job to come up here and do this, not as if it's like, a real honor to be in that role. I mean, the only time I heard him talk about honor was when he was trying to come off as honoring the military, and trying to transpose that onto Trump. I mean, maybe Pence does, but he was trying to transpose it onto Trump. But otherwise, I didn't feel any excitement or like passion for the moment from him, so to speak.
I didn't. What do you think? Did you get that same vibe?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody kept predicting her, but I think when she got the call, I think she was thrilled.
Yeah, I think she was legitimately. I don't know if it was thrilled or happy or whatever it was, but it struck a chord with her.
Yeah, it did, and she was, and you think in a position, to me, it wasn't a normal. Well, what's her name even said? I can't remember. I can never remember her first name. Paige. What's her first name? The moderator.
I forget it. It's not. You're not going to get that from me. Maybe Frank will know. You're not going to get that from me. What was the moderator's name, Frank? Susan Page.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And when she asked that, she
said, columnist,
yeah,
writer,
which the USA is right leaning, but you know what? And she said, whoever takes over, whoever wins is going to be the oldest president ever elected.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I think Kamala felt that they entrust her so much as vice president because, you know what, truthfully, Biden's 77. You know what, 77, I mean, he could be healthy another 10 years, 20 years. Look at Jimmy Carter, but you don't know.
No. The fact is that I mean, Joe Biden's probably in better shape than I am, right? But he is 77. Things start to fail. I wanted to look at this, and honest to God, guys, I wanted to look at this like you're looking at two people who come, let's say February or March, depending, and it depends on which one wins, but come February or March, could take over as president of the United States. Right? Very well could. Now, that might be a bit dramatic, but it could happen. In the next term, in the next 4 years, the fact that one of these two could end up being president, uh, do you see any reason why? All right, let me skew the question. Do you see any reason why Harris showed you anything that would say that she's not capable of filling their role?
No, I don't believe she's been in enough roles as far as attorney general. She's a senator. You know what? You got to think her being state attorney general of California, and she even said it. It's the largest Department of Justice next to federal in the entire country.
Yeah.
You know, that state has 54 million people in it. How many countries aren't that big?
A lot.
I'd say she's more than capable.
Just saying.
Frank, what do you think?
I mean, she's a United States senator. She's been a statewide attorney general in California. She's an accomplished person. She ran for president and was capable of communicating her policy ideas. Last night, she communicated what the ticket is talking about, what the future administration of Biden-Harris would be able to do. I can't see any reason why she couldn't administrate over that, honestly. Would she have some learning curve? Of course she'd have some learning curve. Did I see some of that last night? Yeah, there's a little bit of that. There's a little bit of the thought that, she was simplifying some things about, foreign policy and things like that. But honestly, I think she's so smart, and I think she's smart enough that she would go to people that she trusted, smart people that have been in positions for a long time that could help her along the way. And that's what gives me comfort, is that she would rely upon smart people that she could call upon, and she would do things that would place decision making into the hands of the people who are best at those kind of decisions. For some reason, some crazy reason, there's a trend in our country right now, not by everybody, but some people that are MAGAs. They want Daddy Trump to take care of everything. They think that Daddy Trump has all the answers. They think that Daddy Trump is the best person to solve every problem. It's crazy. I don't know of any country or any company that relies on one person successfully for a long period of time to handle all of the issues. So, I get comfort from the idea that I think she knows enough to call upon experts and get experts in the right position to help her make decisions.
Whenever we talk about this whole thing, and here's something I want to throw out to you guys, and this is taken today. Well, I don't know if it was taken today, but CNN posted it today. Okay. This is the latest CNN poll. This is saying a lot, right? Whatever you're talking about polls by gender, this should not come as a surprise. Okay. Honest to God, it shouldn't. Honestly, the fact that it's that close gives me a lot of pride that we're not going to totally fuck things up. But here's where it is. And Frank, you and I had talked about how you had the one man on stage talking over the women and how it was really important to pull that demographic back to their side. This isn't helping.
No.
Okay? Especially when you consider that women are the biggest demographic in the country. Okay? I mean, that's a very generic demographic, I'll give you that. But whenever you break the country down by race, there's far more, or not race, by sex, there's far more women than there are men. And Biden's winning 2-1. 2-1.
And they will vote.
And they all vote, right? I almost want to say it's a missed opportunity for the Trump campaign. I also want to say that it's because they just discounted the women in this. They just said, you know what, you're just going to do what your man tells you to do. Uh, I've also said, and I want your opinion, that a lot of the women that you say that are saying are pro-Trump are simply saying that because their husbands are. And Lou, you and I had talked about that. We pretty much agreed that that was the case. Frank, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that's the case. I think there's women out there that know how to keep the peace in their house. That they, they feel like, why argue about this? When I go into that booth, he doesn't have to know what I vote for, who I vote for, and he'll never know anyway. So why argue about it?
Keep the peace.
Yeah,
Well, except for my daughter, who tells her husband he's an idiot for wanting to vote for Trump.
Well, that's because she's your daughter, though. I know her parents. Yeah, no, yeah. That's just how
there's no hold bars on that. She doesn't hold anything back. That girl. Whether you want to hear it or not, you're hearing it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know who she gets that from. I'll be honest.
I raised her right.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. The fact is, we have people in this country, right? And Lou, I mean, literally, you can go to the end of my driveway and look either left or right. Okay, if you're at the end of my driveway, you're probably better off looking right, and you will see a fuck ton of houses who have the female in the house, the alpha female in the house, who I promise you, are going through the motions because that's just what the alpha male wants. And you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the strangest pairing I saw by you, your neighbor, I think you said his wife passed away, has the Trump flag.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see the sign that's underneath his Trump flag?
The
Chris Sonata.
The Chris Sonata one, yeah.
I
he
saw
has that flag flying in on his garage now, though.
Okay, he must have moved it back. But when I saw that Chris Sonata sign, I'm thinking, well, he got a Sonata sign, yet he's got Trump flags. And that one boggled my mind because usually it's all across the board.
I'll tell you how big an impact that was.
Maybe he's having a change of heart.
I'll tell you how big an impact that was. Frank, literally, by the time you see his house, you're almost at my driveway. Okay? I mean, you can't blink before you're at my driveway. My wife ended up texting me while she was out in the street. Okay? That's how big an impact it was. And say, did you see so-and-so's house? And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not paying attention. But my point is, no, his wife passed away, so that's a different scenario. But between that place, let's say Cleveland Mill Road, and my house, and Frank, you know where I'm talking about. You know the stretch that I'm talking about. It's about 3/4 of a mile. I truly wonder how many people, because you figure 2 parents to a household. I'm not going to count the kids, so I'm going to say 2 to a household. How many women are going through the motions, or how many of them are Stepford wives? Frank, you had to think about Stepford wives today in our on our Discord channel. I truly wonder, and I'm not. It's a legitimate wonder. How many just in that little stretch, like I said, half a mile, maybe 3/4 of a mile, or Stepford wives are going to do what their husbands say, or how many of them are sitting there saying, yes, dear, yes, dear, yes, dear. Whenever they get into the booth, they're going to vote for whoever they feel like. Do you think that that's a 50-50 split? Do you think that there's, what's your take on that?
Yeah, my gut is there's probably a little bit more of the Stepford wives, because the area and the era that they grew up in, I would say, a lot of them just are going to say, we're going to go along with our husband. And then, maybe 35-40% of them are just saying, I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm just not going to argue about it. So I'd call the split maybe like a 65-35 split.
Lou, what do you think? You know this area better than I do.
I'm going to say, because of knowing this area out here, even 25% is a big number when you think about it across the board. And I believe it's somewhere 20-25%. Because you have a lot of traditional Republicans out here, older women is the reason I'm saying that.
No, it's a good point.
You know what? If Jesus had a D after his name, they wouldn't vote for him.
Oh no, I've said that.
I'm giving the younger ones the benefit of the doubt, seeing when they're hearing the threatening of Roe versus Wade, that Coney is one of these Stepford wives, so to speak. Having to teach kids at home because of this administration's ineptness. I think that factors to that 20-25%.
Yeah, I think you're right. Before we get off the subject, Lou, I'll start with you. Do you think last night's debate changed anything as far as the polling numbers or people's opinions? Do you think it had much of an impact?
No, and I was, best case scenario, I thought it might have swung one each direction, but I figured it was going to be a wash because it's vice president. There was nothing really outstanding or earth-shattering. I mean, the worst thing that come out of that, in my view, that could have hurt Pence and Trump was the transition of power thing again. I think the Supreme Court issue of stacking the court has less impact on people than that transition of power at this point. If anything, I thought it could swing 1 point back toward Biden, but right now, I don't think anything's going to move. October surprises. I just saw on Twitter that Pence canceled a trip to Indiana tomorrow.
Dude, I'm telling you, that guy's sick.
No reason given.
He's sick. You saw it last night.
Yeah. So he probably has COVID.
Probably does. Frank, what do you think? Do you think last night swayed anybody?
Very few people. I mean, I think that there's the people that were lost to Trump in his performance, and out of that pool, I think they got, maybe if they did really, really well amongst that pool, they got like 10% of them back last night. Probably closer to 5% in reality. And then I think that, did we gain any more out of Harris's performance? It's been trending so far towards, Biden because of the coronavirus response, the lack of response to it, the fact that Trump now apparently has coronavirus. I mean, that's the information we're operating under right now. To me, I don't think the debate moved the needle all that much either way, honestly.
I don't either. Before there's one more subject I want to talk about before we call it, but I did want to get your opinions on that. Generally speaking, overall, do you think it had any impact at all? Normally, a vice presidential pick or a vice presidential debate doesn't really do anything as far as the trends go, but we are in unusual times. You guys saw my what I said in our channel today, in our Discord channel, that I really don't I don't believe that a vice presidential debate really does anything, nor do I believe that there is as many undecided as as is being portrayed. But even if there is, I refuse to believe that number is significant enough to move the dial in either direction. It's just simply not enough people that's it's going to make any difference. They could literally choose a third party, and I don't think it would make any difference at all. Or do you think I'm wrong, Lou? I'll ask you that before we move on. Do you think that it really matters? If Do you really think the vice presidential debate mattered one way or another? Apparently, you can't hear me. Frank, I'll ask you.
Do I think it matters? This year more than any other year, probably, but not enough to really make a difference. I mean, I think there's probably, you could see some people saying, I needed to see her and hear her in this setting just to feel comfortable with knowing that she's got this. And she did that. She accomplished that. I mean, like you said, Pence legitimized her appearance herself. She did a great job, and she legitimized herself. So I think because of the age of both primary presidential candidates, it was a little more important this year than normal. But I don't think it changes who somebody's voting for. I think it made people who said, I'm going to vote for Biden, I'm a little bit worried about his age. Now they're like, oh, I'm pretty comfortable because guess what? This person, this senator, she's got it together. She can handle it,
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I don't think, generally speaking, I don't think a vice presidential debate does a whole lot as far as moving the needle one way or the other. But that being said, I think we have a country that is so polarized that this debate really isn't going to do much to change the direction of anything. One more thing I wanted to talk about before we call it, and I threw it up here, and I'm going to put a spotlight on it. And this is really, really, really important. Agents foiled, again, you saw this is coming from AP. Agents foiled a plot to kidnap Michigan Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer, authorities said Thursday, in announcing charges in an alleged scheme that involved months of planning and even rehearsals to snatch her from her vacation home. 6 men were charged in federal court with conspiring to kidnap the governor in reaction to what they viewed as her uncontrolled power, quote unquote, uncontrolled power, according to a federal complaint. Separately, 7 others were charged in a state court under Michigan's anti-terrorism laws for allegedly targeting police and seeking a civil war. I want anybody, to tell me how Trump is not directly responsible for this. Anybody. Whenever he tweeted, "Liberate Michigan," I want somebody to tell me how this asshole is not responsible for this. Frank, talk me off the ledge.
Can't do it. This has been a thing that some of my friends who I keep in contact with that are MAGA folks have been telling me for a long time that they're looking at the possibility, and they're looking at this as a civil war is where our country's headed, and some of them seem to be itching for it. And I think they feel like they're legitimized in that belief by Trump and by Q and all this kind of garbage that's out there. I can't talk you off the ledge on this. What I can say is that I'm feeling a lot more comfortable about the possibility that it doesn't happen because of them snuffing it out like this. When federal agents are getting involved very early in this process, and stopping it when it's a few yahoos like this, 6, 7 guys, I think I feel comfortable about that. I do agree with you though that Trump enables this. I don't know if he doesn't understand the gravity of it. No, I do know he understands the gravity of it. I don't know if he understands that civil war means that he'll probably end up dead. That's what I think he doesn't understand. But he thinks that it's going to keep him in power, and he thinks he's speaking to his base. But yeah, I think he's inciting this kind of stuff.
Lou?
I sent you a picture on Discord, I think, of 4 they arrested. And you know what? How do you not say it wasn't his fault? The same thing. It's like Frank said. I can't talk you down off of that. He's directly responsible. I mean, truthfully, not just Trump, but I'm going to say a lot of the Republican Party, because how far right did they go that want all power? I mean, the Republican Assembly in Michigan also, I feel, incited some of this. I mean, they let him walk into the legislative session with AR-15s. Why were they allowed to walk into the state house with rifles, guns, no matter what?
Here's what you sent. Here's the four: Adam Fox, William Grant Knoll, Michael John Knoll, who apparently they're related, and Eric Molitor. But four Metagons if I ever saw one, huh, Frank?
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Look at these clowns.
Yeah.
Look at that. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I'm not one to judge people by their looks, but look at Adam Fox.
Yeah.
This guy couldn't spell cat if he spot him the C and the T.
That beard looks like he just came off the Mennonite or the Amish work camp.
This is what Trump's inspiring right here.
Yeah.
This is it. Okay. My fear, the thing that scares me the most, and one of the things that I completely defend at the same time, is the fact that these assholes can own firearms. Well, you're looking at four total complete pieces of shit, and I know there's a tendency on our side not to give these guys credit, not to show who they are. I have a tendency to disagree with that. I honestly feel that the one thing you want to do is put a spotlight on the assholes, because you want people to see who the assholes are. Anyhow, the idea that these guys obviously were inspired, at the very least, or given the green light, at least in their eyes, by an administration, a federal administration, gives me great pause as to the direction that the current administration wants to lead this country. And let's face it, all three of us are probably pretty well safe, right? If you take our demographic. What's your feeling on this, Frank? I'll start with you. What's your take on this? What do you think?
I mean, you see a lot of this being fomented about, even in Pennsylvania, when they're talking about Wolf. I see, people like Paul Zeiss talking about how his decisions are so, random and that he's overstepping his bounds, that he's trying to have complete authority. And we saw them march on the Capitol with guns in Michigan, in Lansing. It's surreal, but I think we have to be acknowledging the fact that people are feeling empowered to do this kind of stuff, and they're doing it in defense of or in pursuit of harming ourselves. It's all about this idea of the coronavirus being a hoax. It's all about this idea that we shouldn't be shutting down places to try to protect ourselves. So, look, I'm all for protests and I'm all for, peaceful revolution when it's needed. But they're so misguided that it's just surreal.
Lou?
You know what? That shows you the power of right-wing media. Breitbart, InfoWars, Fox. I know there's a bunch of other ones out there. I mean, I look at some of them sometimes and think, my God, how do people believe this shit? QAnon.
Mm-hmm.
And what you have is, what was the I don't know whoever stated this, but it's still the truth. The less you know, the more you believe.
Yeah.
And that you're looking at the direct result of it. They either can't comprehend, they're either gullible or are they that racist that it's whites only, Nazi? I mean, anybody out there listening, please tell me when you saw a Confederate flag or a Nazi flag at any Biden rally this year.
Anyone. Pick one. Yeah.
Pick one. I don't care when it was.
Yeah. That's
or any Democratic rally for that reason. that wasn't a protester. I should emphasize that.
Right. Right.
That's what you're looking at.
Real quick, I want you guys to touch on something real quick. We'll probably talk about it more tomorrow in case, unless some other shit blows up. But apparently says Trump says he will not participate in a virtual debate. I want to get this right. And Trump's campaign manager, Bill Sepien, it won't be long before he's tested positive too. Said that they won't be participating in a virtual debate, and I guess my question is, and like I said, I really want to talk about this more tomorrow. Do you guys really even care if there's another debate, Lou?
No, and I believe maybe it's in Biden's best interest if there isn't one at this point.
Frank, what do you think?
Not really. I mean, I don't think.
You really think anything's going to change? You really think it matters either way?
Nope.
No. A useless stand on something that people are like, okay, that's great. Let's not have another debate.
Yeah. I think the only thing, like I said earlier, I think Trump knows he's outclassed, outgunned in the debate, and he doesn't want it for any reason because he's afraid of the format being a town hall format. He knows that Biden beat him up pretty good the first time. He came out of that looking like a total jackass. But even with that, I mean, what's more to gain? We're going to see more of the same. It's not going to be anything new, and we're not going to hear any answers to any questions that we want to get answered. So, no.
Do you think that it matters that he knows he can be muted?
I was just thinking that because, boy, you can shut off a virtual in an instant.
Yep. You think that's why he's saying no?
I was hoping they picked all black women to ask him questions at the next debate, too.
Frank, I'll give you the last word. What do you think?
So I'm sorry I couldn't hear you guys for that, but I would say that here's the thing. It probably scares him that he could be muted. But I mentioned this earlier. I don't know that it'd be a very tough call for the moderator or whoever's in control at Control Center to actually mute somebody. When do they mute them? How do they make that call? Because then they look like they're the puppeteer. They look like they're controlling the whole thing. And I doubt they would actually use that power, realistically. So I think in my gut is that it's more about the fact that he just knows that's not a good format for him, period. Not the fact that muting would occur, but there's probably a little piece of him that says, I don't want to leave that control out of my hands.
Yeah, I think you're probably spot on. Okay, guys, what do you say we call this a night? For everybody watching, again, thank you so very much for watching. We truly appreciate it. Bob Les, thank you very much for joining us again, as always. For everybody else, tomorrow, same bad time, same bad channel. And Frank, I got to say it, right? Until then, goodbye, good luck, and God bless. We'll see everybody tomorrow.
Mom's happy. Good night.